If you want to prevent skating over the surface when trying to use gouges on the entry cut, then keep watching this video, and also if you stick around, I'll show you what I think is the ultimate spindle gouge exercise, and if you do it right, then probably you mastered spindle gouge, so keep watching. Now in this video I'll cover the ball gouge as well, so this is with the asymmetric grind. Then the spindle gouge, 1/2 inch diameter, you can see the profile. Then 10 mil spindle gouge, which is more for a detail work with a longer bevel and a little bit more pointier fingernail profile, and you'll see why that comes in handy. And finally the continental spindle gouge with a big arc at the nose, and you'll see the difference here and why maybe a little pointier grind will help you out with the entry. So let me first mount the blank on. So the first thing is this is a lovely ball blank chestnut, and what I've done is mark a center line of the ball here. Now I have in one of my previous videos explaining a little further out how to position the handle and everything, and this will be close-up shots of the cutting edge here. So what I'm after in terms of tool rest height is when I position the gouge for, let's say, roughing cuts, with the handle, end of the handle between my waist height and keeping it nice and flat, so that how much I drop down the handle, I want to be slightly above center line. Hope you can see about 1.5 mil I'm above the center line. So that's my favorite position, let's say, when I'm turning. So on the center line or slightly above that. That goes pretty much for all the tools that I'm using. Now, what happens when you get a skate is the wood will catch on the unsupported part of the gouge, and it will try to find its place. And since this way I'm holding, not much will happen if I do like this. You see, it does skate, but not that terrible. It's a little bit more obvious when you're hollowing out, and if I drop the handle down and open the gouge to, let's say, 2 o'clock, now it wants to really skate over. So you can see really bad surface, and if you have maybe colored rim, then it will be ruined. So let me just clean this up real quick. So using a ball gouge, again closing the flute to 9 o'clock, I raise the handle so it's nice and level, closing the flute, and once I'm in the wood I can open it up and move forward. Do that again, so closing the flute, raising the handle. Once I'm in the wood I can drop the handle down, open the gouge, and do the cut. Now the same procedure is for entry cut, let's say if I want to hollow a ball. So closing the flute to 3 o'clock, raising the handle up so I get a single point of contact like this. Once I'm in the wood, so the bevel have a place to rest inside, I can open up the gouge and proceed forward with the hollowing, let's say. Now the same thing happens with the spindle gouge. You want to have a little bit of a bevel resting before you open it up and continue on. So if I'm doing a hollowing, I will do the same, so raising the handle so it's nice and flat, closing the gouge. Once you can see with the spindle gouge, it's slightly a little bit more pointier profile at the nose, so I get a single line of contact, as you can see here. So once I'm in the wood, I can open it up to, let's say, 2 o'clock flute position, drop the handle down, and I can start with the hollowing. Same here. Now let's say that in this area I want to cut a tenon. So the way I like to cut a tenon, you can do it with the handle flat, and closing the flute. But what I like to do is, since the spindle gouge wings are a little bit flatter curve than on the ball gouge, what I like to do is drop the handle down, closing the flute to 9 o'clock in this case. Once I'm in the wood, I continue to raise the handle up, and that will pivot the edge into the wood, like that. So I'll do that again, quicker. So that's something that you can practice before you cut your tenon here. Let's say you can practice in this waste wood. If this is a bowl, in this area where it's waste wood, you can practice getting the cut down to the foot. Now the same can be done with a 10 mil spindle gouge. Now, since it's smaller tool and smaller radius at the nose, let me just press clean this. It will be a little bit easier to get a nice entry cut without skating over. But if I open it up, you'll see I'll still get a skate, and quite badly. So clean this up real quick. So to prevent that, if I want to hollow this out, let's say, raise the handle so it's nice and flat, close the flute to 3 o'clock. Once I'm in the wood, I can open it up to 2 o'clock, drop the handle down, and do the hollowing. And that happens in a sort of a millisecond, this rotation and lifting the handle. And again, if I want to cut the tenon here, just make a little nibble here. Again, I like to drop the handle down for the spindle gouge and raising the handle to get a nice clean cut. So you can see that's without too much drama. This area is always going to be this kind of fuzzy because of the nose of the gouge. That's all in the waste wood here. So, but the surface here left behind, it's nice and clean. So now here I have a continental spindle gouge, and what I'll do is just clean this fuzz away. And again, if I want to make a tenon here, what I would do is close the flute to 9 o'clock. I'll drop the handle for the spindle gouge. Again, it has a slightly shallower curve on the wings, so it's I'm also getting a single point of entry, as you can maybe see here. And the same will happen here. So once I'm in the wood, I can slightly open it up, raising the handle as I'm going in. And that will leave you with a really nice polished surface here. You can see without need to sand. So that's really, really clean. Again, I can do the same with a ball gouge. Or you can raise the handle flat. Once you're in the wood, open it up, continue on. So that's for this kind of cut. And again, if you want to hollow this out, it's slightly different. So back with the ball gouge, and to get a skate here, all I have to do is position the gouge as I would for the hollowing, and you get a skate over. So if I clean that up, to prevent that, again, closing the flute to 3 o'clock, raising the handle so it's nice and flat, and I'm getting the single point of entry without skating over. Once I'm in the wood, where I have a little place to raise the bevel, I can open to 2 o'clock, drop the handle down, and start hollowing. Now Now same goes for the continental spindle gouge with the big radius on the nose. So again, I'm closing the flute at 3 o'clock. I have a nice single point of entry. I can open up the gouge to 2 o'clock, drop the handle down, and start with the hollowing. So that's, you can see, nice and clean. And again, same goes for the spindle gouge. The most important thing that you can do is closing that flute to 3 or 9 o'clock, depends on position. So that's pretty much that. So really nice, quick and easy. So just before I show you what I think is the ultimate spindle gouge exercise, as you saw, entry cut with the gouges doesn't have to involve any drum or anything like that. So if you follow simple tips, now these tips can deviate slightly depending on which grind you have on the ball gouges, let's say. So you have to adapt slightly, but this is what really will help you out. Closing that flute to completely, so either 3 position o'clock or 9 position, and raising that handle, that will help you out with the ball gouges. Now with the spindle gouges, it can also help you out, but what I found, I have much better results, let's say, with the spindle gouges, since they don't have much curve in those wings. Dropping that handle way down and raising it up, and that edge will through an arc cut into the wood. So again, hopefully that this will help you out. Now let me show you the practice piece. Now these are what I would consider a really good spindle gouge exercise, and I'll explain why spindle gouge. So these can be moldings, these can be bases for the lamp, or maybe candle stand or something like that. And you can see a lot of fine details here, and I actually sand all of these pieces, and none of these details are lost during sanding. So you can, let's say, scrape some of the details here, nothing wrong with that. However, if you're using for the majority of the shape here a spindle gouge, you will have a much better success and you'll have a much cleaner cut. Again, you don't want to sand all of these details very long. So I have here a nice block of beech. I'll be using 1/2 inch spindle gouge for this. Now I like to position the slightly across tool rest, 1/2 inch spindle gouge. So first I'll rough this out, some of the shape here that I want. So these 3 steps, and actually just with the scraper I'll get first this nice and clean. So that's pretty good. Now back with the spindle gouge. So I'll be most of the time riding the bevel, but also what I'll do, as you see, I might readjust the tool rest here and there. I'll actually squeeze and cut the shape that I want, a little off the bevel, but I'll control the movement with my left hand, squeezing and giving that kind of a shape. So first let's do a little detail here. So that's pretty good. Just get it a little bit smaller. And I'll get closer with the tool rest. Let's make a full bead all the way around. And I'll finesse all of these cuts or surfaces a little bit later. I first want to rough this out, so we can make a little ogee. Okay, so these are now roughed out. You can see it doesn't look too bad, but what I'll do is now, just using the same gouge, I'll just go very, very lightly. Get the shavings out of the way. Finessing the bead, now the ogee. Let the wood come down to the gouge. So that's really clean, and let me show you. So I brought you here, and you'll see here on the horizon the shape that I've made. So we have a cove, we have two steps, then a bead, a little ogee, then another bead here, and everything is cut really nice and clean. And what I'll do is reposition the camera and I'll do quick sanding. Now with the sanding, what I do recommend is maybe a single layer like this, because some of these corners you really don't want to round them over. If you round them over, then they just doesn't look right. So as you see here, so I like to hold the paper underneath, and with my right hand I'll push the paper, and I can bend it to a really nice corner here to get into all of the corners. And this won't take too much of the sanding because it's cut nice and clean. So that's 180 grit. You can see that's pretty good. A little burnish mark here, so I'll get that, and then I'll go to 240. Grab a little bit of shaving just to buff it out, and we'll put a finish on and a little bit of oil, and just make sure you get into all of the corners here. And that's it. Hope you can see that's a really gorgeous base. And let me just take it out. Now, just for fun, I'm going to polish it up with a little bit of carnauba wax, just to give it a shine. And here it is. So this is our molding or base, whichever you want to call it. I just polished it up a little bit, and you can see silky smooth surface, really nice, and it's a really nice and simple profile. Hopefully the camera will pick it up again. So cove, a little bead, ogee, another bead, and finish it up with the base here. And yeah, really turned out lovely. And as you saw, pretty much using only one tool. Okay, I did use a scraper for the top here, but on the profile here I only use spindle gouge. Now, You could use a ball gouge if you have the angle here from the wings and on the bevel, let's say less than 80 degrees, I would call it. This one with asymmetric grind that I use it, it's really hard to get into corners here. It will usually leave slightly rounded a corner, where with the spindle gouge, just clean up the flute, with the spindle gouge I can really tuck that into a corner. Hopefully the camera will focus, here we go, especially around the bead here. So getting on the bottom of the bead here, really you need a nice a long bevel spindle gouge here. And yeah, I think it's a really good exercise, and hopefully you'll try it out. And again, if you have these kind of small off-cut pieces, really nice way to use them. And you can always make a tenon here or a foot, and you can have now nice detailed bowl if you want. So really the possibilities are endless. And also it's a good practice to, as you saw, most of the time I was riding the bevel, but the important thing is that when I'm turning this, the handle, it's not here and I'm dragging around, because that will be more of a scrape instead of a cut. So I'm leading with the edge instead of with the handle, if that makes sense. So that will produce really nice clean surface with minimum sanding required. So hope you like this kind of video, and see you in the next one.